In 2015, CD Projekt Red released The Witcher 3, and it arrived to incredible critical acclaim. Many view The Witcher 3 as one of, if not the best game ever made. It truly is amazing, and this of course meant that fans would be waiting in eager anticipation for their next big project, Cyberpunk 2077. This was the most anticipated game since Red Dead Redemption 2. Could it ever truly live up to the hype? Who's to blame for these astronomical expectations? And why was the game released in the state it was? Well, join me as we explore Cyberpunk 2077, Destined to Disappoint. I want to talk about the strengths of this game first, because we have to be honest here, this game is still incredible. Night City is one of the most beautiful, well-designed worlds I've ever seen in gaming. Night City is an absolute joy to be a part of, and that's exactly what you are. A part. A very small part, in fact. This isn't your stereotypical RPG where you happen to be the chosen one or anything like that. No, you are just a minute component of what makes this city what it is. The sheer power and danger of Night City is constantly relayed to you through just experience it. Crime is happening all of the time. The people under its reign are essentially mind controlled, unable to cognitively do what they want. Society has corrupted the city. The freedom of choice as to what your average guy down the street can become has led to disastrous consequences because, as we know, humans struggle immensely with self-control, and in Night City they have everything they would ever want at the tip of their fingers. So what could go wrong? Night City acts as more than a backdrop for the madness. It's a character. It's the most important one. Night City does not give even the smallest shit about you or anybody else. Night City is lubricated with intrigue, yet repels you at the same time through fear of what horrors are being withheld from you. This game consists within a beautiful cyber dystopia, and in terms of visual presentation, they've nailed it in ways we could only ever have hoped for. Then, we have the game's biggest strength for me, which is absolutely the characters and the writing. All of the important characters are fantastic, and you do care for them more and more as time progresses and you complete more missions with them. Jackie and V's bromance is believable, Panam's personality shines through at every turn, and Judy is incredibly easy to empathise with. And that's just 3 of the many incredible characters you will come across throughout your journey through Night City. But there's one character that completely steals the show. One relationship that makes the game worth playing all on its own. And that's, of course, Johnny Silverhand. I see some people saying that they think Keanu was miscast as Silverhand, but I simply couldn't disagree more. He's brilliant, he's sarcastic, he's witty, his motivations are clear, his reactions to events and conversations going on in V's life constantly meant I was roaming around the world with a grin on my face as the banter between V and Silverhand makes it all worthwhile. I would heavily advise you to do the Silverhand/Rogue side quest chain that unlocks at the start of Act 3. I think it's criminal that some players could miss this. This is absolutely 100% needed in order to make their ending more impactful and add layers to Johnny's character. I can't believe this side quest chain isn't mandatory. The writing is very good. It's definitely not on the same level as The Witcher 3, but that's not necessarily fair. This is one area where Cyberpunk was destined to disappoint. Yeah, remember the title of the video? We're back there now. Anybody who played The Witcher 3 will have been hoping for the same standard of writing to filter through to Cyberpunk, and unfortunately, I don't feel it does. In The Witcher 3, almost every side quest was fun. The writing behind said side quests revolved around more than just go here, kill enemy, collect reward. A lot of side missions in Cyberpunk work this way. You approach a building, you get a call from your fixer, it tells you that somebody in there needs to die, so you go in and you kill them. And then you get out and your fixer reads you and says, "Good job, here's your money." There are some absolutely brilliant side quests though. I love the one where Johnny narrates it as if it was a noir novel, for example. There's plenty of good side content here to justify the entry fee, don't get me wrong. But again, not as much as The Witcher 3. The gameplay though, is awesome. The footage that will have been shown on screen probably won't do it justice because it's mostly from my first 30-ish hours, but there are many options you have. You can choose to go stealthy or go loud, and you're given plenty of options to do either. You do feel really cool when you pull off a cool set of moves, and in my opinion, over my 60-hour playthrough, I never got bored of the combat. Now, I'm going to be a bit more critical. I've pretty much covered the things I feel CD Projekt Red got right, but now it's time to get nasty. Yes, bugs are a thing. I won't go into them too much because I can't tell you anything you haven't already heard or seen. I had 22 crashes in 64 hours on a PS5. Make of that what you will. Next, my plan with the game was to play the game through one life path, platinum the game, wait for the upgraded PS5 version, play the game again with a different life path, and then use that save file for the DLC. I'm not going to do that. I got the plat, but I'm not playing this game again. There's almost zero replay value, and here's why. I chose the Nomad life path because I wanted to delay my entrance to Night City, so that it would be some big grand reveal when I got there. But nah, you literally just drive in. No suspense, no grand reveal, nothing. You just drive in. Me choosing Nomad also made no difference whatsoever to the game. I had a different 20-minute intro where I, like I said, drove in, and every now and then I had access to an extra optional dialogue choice which changes nothing, and that's it. And then we have the builds, if you can even call them that. If you want to level up a skill, you have to earn skill points by leveling up anything. So if you unlock perk points by leveling up stealth, you don't have to use the perk points on stealth. You can use them on anything. This level of freedom is nice in fairness. It does encourage you to experiment with different styles to find the one that best suits you, as you will be unlocking more perk points through different things that you do. One thing that really disappointed me was the lack of enemy design. This is a world where anybody can become anything and can quite literally transform their bodies into killing machines. So why is every enemy the same? With very few exceptions, every enemy you will run into is just a person with a gun. It's a huge letdown. Now for what I would consider my biggest disappointment. I spent a fair portion of this video praising the world, but you'll notice that it was mostly aesthetics. The world looks real. The world looks lived in. The world looks alive. But it doesn't feel like any of these things. The random NPCs you'll find in the world don't have their own unique daily routines like we were told they would. They stumble around aimlessly, walk into each other, and then despawn when you dare to look the other way. The cars will pop in and out of your vision constantly, and refuse to drive in any direction other than what they were specifically told to do. When you commit a crime, the police will spawn directly behind you, and then despawn in 10 seconds when you drive away. None of these things can be excused for an open world game in 2020. You want a game with actual immersion, where the NPCs actually do have their own unique daily routines, where the police work properly. Red Dead Redemption 2 did this, and it managed to do this with a game that was finished and actually worked. I very rarely would walk around Night City and feel like I was actually there. I felt like I was looking at a pretty city, but not actively taking part in it. I mean, you can't actually do anything in the city. Remember GTA 5? Remember how you could do anything? You could play tennis, you could play golf, you could start your own taxi company, you could get your hair cut. You can't do anything in Night City. You have missions and you have side missions. That is it. That is hugely disappointing to me. I expected Night City to feel like a real place. A real horrifying dystopia where crime was seeping through every corner. As I mentioned earlier, crime does happen. It is here, but only in scripted areas. Then we have the story. I enjoyed it very much, but man, it could and should have been so much better. What is a cyberpunk dystopia? What makes it special? Think about that. Think about anything that comes to your mind. None of it's here. This story is only cyberpunk because it needs to explain how the microchip makes sense. The game doesn't ask any questions of society or of the player like Blade Runner or Detroit Become Human did. It doesn't ask anything of you. Act 1 of the game is easily the strongest part of the narrative, and that is because more time was clearly put into it before they had to rush the rest. I refuse to believe that a development team as strong as CDPR, a development team that wrote the campaign of The Witcher 3, wrote a main story this meh by choice. There has to have been a bunch of cut missions and story beats. I knew this would be shorter than The Witcher 3, but you could railroad your way through this in 15 hours. Act 2 suffers massively from Tell Me Why syndrome. For those that don't know, Tell Me Why is a story-driven game developed by Dontnod, the people behind Life is Strange. In that game, you spend 10 hours finishing it, but when you get to the end and you look back over what you did, you're confused as to how you spent 10 hours playing it, because barely anything had actually happened. Act 2 of Cyberpunk basically consists of nothing. You're introduced to new characters and things get worse, and that's it. I won't go into too much detail obviously, but when I reached the point of no return warning, I was just like, are you kidding me? Really? And then there's the issue revolving the disconnect between the main questline constantly being revolved around urgency and how V needs to complete his objective quickly, and the side content that encourages you to chill out and take your time. Though, in fairness, this was also present in The Witcher 3, as you needed to find Ciri quickly, but at the same time you wanted to explore all of the world and complete all the side quests, so I will cut them some slack for that. This video is getting a little bit too long now, so I'll wrap things up, but I think we need to recognise that it was a huge ask to expect CDPR to live up to The Witcher 3 again. I do think that expectations from hardcore fans were a little too high, but that is absolutely not the fans' fault. CD Projekt Red constantly came out with quotes, hyping up the game, saying it can do this and that, you can do this and that, saying it could run surprisingly well on past gen hardware, when even on next gen hardware it's hanging on by a thread. We were promised things that are not in this game, saying we can do this and that when we can't. Look back at the trailers and pre-release content we got. That game looks awesome. That game shows loads of stuff that we simply can't do in this game. Why wouldn't players be excited for this? They were promised a game infinitely better than the one we were given. The reason for this decline? Rushing the game out. People say this game should have been delayed a few months to iron out bugs, and whilst that is true, I think it should have been delayed another year, so that they wouldn't have had to have cut as much content as they did. That game that exists right now, the game that came out in December last year, is in no way the game the hardworking devs at CDPR wanted us to play. They were forced to release an inferior product due to poor management decisions from above. This game should never have got the April 2020 release date, because while it can be delayed, and this game did, a lot, once you promise a date and then go back on it, people become restless, and eventually people expect the game to be somewhat better than it ever could be because you keep delaying it, and you shouldn't have dangled it in front of their faces. Cyberpunk was doomed as soon as that first release date was announced. That was the moment where the game we thought we were getting died, and we were destined to get the game we did get. A good game, mind you, a game that made my Game of the Year list. A game I thoroughly enjoyed for 60 hours as I got myself the Platinum Trophy. A game that offers brilliant flashes of what could have been. A game that was destined to disappoint. Thank you for making it to the end of this very long video. Sorry about that, I got a little bit carried away, but if you enjoyed the video then please consider leaving a like, as I spent a lot of time making this and would greatly appreciate it. And if you want to see more content from me, then make sure to subscribe, as I upload videos just like this one, though usually a bit shorter, every single Friday. Have a nice day, and goodbye.